welcome to the Band Advice Podcast, the Matt and Mark Show, or whatever we're to call it. We haven't quite figured out a name for it, but hey, whatever, right? My name is Mark.
And I'm Matt.
Hey, Matt, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. What's
awesome.
going on?
Oh, man, staying busy. So did you have a good Christmas?
Oh, yeah, of course I did.
Awesome. I did the grand experiment. I put out 2 Christmas songs, and mixed results. We'll just say it's mixed results. I had the Mad Dog Mark and the Blues Hounds Christmas Time Blues.
Love it.
That's a lot of fun. And that was actually, I wasn't going to release that this year, but I decided what the heck, I did it. And then I had my classical guitar version of Silent Night. And I decided to really try. Well, first of all, I wanted to get it out there first in hopes that Spotify and all that would pick it up on their playlist. Didn't quite happen. But I found some interesting results, though, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. But, you know, now that the Christmas season's over, it's time to kind of sit back and take a look at my stats and see what actually happened. So, Did you do any releases for Christmas this year?
Well, on my birthday, I put out a live recording via my website.
Oh, cool.
And so it was, I'm trying to, kind of take a few cues from the master and see, recently Neil Young has made this archive of his available on his website. And so not only does it have all of his well-known, well-loved things, but it's also got outtakes and videos and scans of lyrics and set lists and pictures and, video. Just, it's so expansive, and he's been threatening to do this for a long time. And, he's kind of wrestles with technology too. And so, they put out the physical box set, which had 10 CDs, DVD, all this stuff, but now it's all online.
Nice.
So, there for about 6 months, he had it to where it was free, open, you could just go look, listen, whatever, for 6 months. And I think now he's got it to where it's a subscription type service. And so, he's sort of figured out that Facebook's not really the place for music. Facebook is, sort of on its way to different things, and so I'm trying to follow that model as poorly as I can. And so I had this recording that came out pretty good, and I felt like I wanted to make that available to people on my website, and just knock down all the walls between me and the listener, me and the fan, me and the person who does want to hear my music. Where can you hear my music? Well, you can go to this, go to that, da-da-da. Well, how about you just start promoting yourself instead of all these websites?
Right. Okay.
And that's not, working out just all that great, because I'm just not really working it on the promotion part of it as hard as I could and as smart as I could. But, that's just the reality of where I'm going with it. I'm not waiting for these big labels to come knocking at my door. I'm not even trying to, I've tried it for years, and it was like, okay, the headlines last year, Ozzy Osbourne, I'm not going to record another album. It's pointless. Okay. Wow. The other headline, Atlantic Records signs Catch Me Outside Girl. I'm like,
who's that?
I used to think I would want to, it's the girl that was on Dr. Phil, and it was like, this surly little 13-year-old or something. And,
enough said.
Her parents were like, trying to get her a handle on her, and her deal was like, catch me outside, as like sort of, catch me outside and I'll beat you up or something like that. Okay. And so Atlantic Records signed this girl. I used to think I might want a contract on Atlantic Records, but I'm just not really too sure that that's the case now.
I had a song reviewed by them once.
Really?
Yeah. They I sent a letter, try to be as professional as possible, and I got a call. It was Jason Flom's assistant. She goes, "Yeah, we're really interested in hearing this song. We might have some artists. Send it to us." I'm like, okay. Yeah, sent it to them. They lost the tape, sent them another tape, and basically the summation of it is that they needed to work on the melody. But hey, had my song listened to them by it. So there's my 32 seconds of fame.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. At least you're, I always kind of liken it to fishing in the right pond with the right bait.
Right.
And so I feel like, okay, you gotta figure out what you want. Mm-hmm. What do you want out of life? Sure. What is success to you?
Right. And
then you have to figure out how to get that. Many times people get frustrated fishing in the wrong pond with the wrong bait.
Right.
Is reaching out to Atlantic Records going to be successful 100% of the time? And the first time you do it, absolutely not.
Right.
And so, but at least you're fishing in the right pond and with the right bait.
And it depends. There's some people that are great performers, horrible songwriters. Some people are great songwriters, but don't have that whatever it takes, je ne sais quoi, to be the right performer. So yeah, what do you want to do? Do you want people to hear your music, or do you want people to hear you play your music? So
That's true.
and that's what it all comes down to as well. But I don't personally. I gave up a long time ago about getting a major label deal. I gave up a long time ago about getting sort of any sort of label deal. You just wake up one day, you look at yourself in the mirror, it's like, yeah, 14-year-old girls ain't buying my album.
Yeah. Well, and it all comes down to, the mainstream stuff, and
Right.
I've known enough people with major label deals, and they've relayed these stories and situations. It's like, there's no room for error anymore.
Right.
In 1972, 1978, 1981, there was room for error because they were selling a lot of units. They were making a lot of money. But still, now there's like, I'm not exactly spring chicken either, And I mean, this kind of music, anything that's real, that's done real, is fringe music now.
Right.
That's taken a long time for me to accept that. But someone who's 23, two guys playing guitar and singing without tracks, without lights, without go-go dancers, that's fringe music now.
True.
And, there's still lots and lots of people that like that music, but
How do you get to them?
how do you get to them?
Yeah, well, that's the key. You and I were talking earlier. There was a movie that came out about 8 years ago, or 10 years ago, actually. It was called Artifact. And it was basically about Jared Leto's band, 30 Seconds to Mars, and their big battle that they were having with their major label, EMI, at the time. And apparently EMI came to having them on their roster by acquisition, and they wanted off their contract. 30 Seconds to Mars wanted out of their contract. EMI wanted them to stay, so they sued them for $30 million. Cute, right? But the entire movie was centered around this lawsuit, as well as when they're trying to put out this album, which, by the way, is a great album. It's one of my favorites of recent music. But in the movie, there was this quote that has really rung true to me, and I think it's real pertinent these days as well. Basically, it's by a guy named Buckminster Fuller, and it's a two-part quote. First part was, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. That's our existing reality. I think we've already touched on.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second part of it is to change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Well, that's exactly where we are these days, especially the DIY and record labels. That model's obsolete.
Yeah.
And we can go on and on and on, and we probably will in a future podcast talk about where the major labels messed up. And but nowadays, this is the great time, as he said. It's also the worst time, but the DIY musician. So, what is the model? How is this going to work? I mean, I have my opinions, and I have the path that I'm going to take with my stuff. You have your way of doing things and what you have done. So why don't you talk about a little bit about your model as a DIY musician?
Well, when I started recording, I thought I got to get this out there to people just beyond my hometown, beyond the people that are just coming to the gigs or whatever. And, the internet was pretty well going by the time I put out that first album in 2002, but I didn't really take a whole lot of advantage of it even till up about 2005 when I did that second album. And so, I went through the CD Baby submission and all that, and I mean it's amazing. It's like, wow, it's all that those albums are on. All those download services, and they're available at Walmart.com and all these big sites and stuff like that. And so it's like, it kind of changed the way it all went. When I sat down and talked with the then owner of CD Baby, the guy that started it, Derek Sivers, I got a chance to talk to him for a few minutes at Meet 'em in France in 2005, and it was like, this guy started CD Baby from his basement, garage, whatever, and turned it into a great alternate way of distributing music. It's kind of like, in the old days, in 1968, man, you're doing a record. I mean, there's just going to be some gates that you're not going to be able to get over unless you've got a lot of money.
Right.
You just couldn't just go out there and do an album. You had to be somebody of some note that had some capital and access to machinery that just not your average person could just go down to the store and buy. And so that was kind of kept just what the what those big companies wanted the public to see, that kept that tight rein on that. And long about the punk generation, the late 70s, early 80s, people started figuring out ways of doing it on their own, recording on 4-track and mixing it down to cassette, and, making dupes of that and selling it out of the trunk of their car. Maybe somebody had a vinyl cutter. I mean, I love that DIY ethic because it's earthy and it's real. And it's like, whether you're a rapper, you're a punk rocker or a roots
Bruce
rocker.
Springsteen with a 4-track.
Totally.
Yeah.
That was just one of his, his most endearing albums to me. It was done as simple and as possible. It wasn't even intended for release, and I think as fans, that's what the fans like.
Sure.
The fans like to see you in your shirt and shorts and T-shirt. They don't necessarily want to see you in your tuxedo.
Well, not necessarily
all the time.
Me, but that's all right.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
It's like they want to see, sort of an inside peek that's not just all fluff,
Sure.
And I mean, if you're a major label and you're trying to sell records, I understand you're going to have to fluff some stuff up. But the cool thing is the DIY thing now is that's kind of the way it goes. I mean, there's very few people that have major label deals, and then there's even very few more that are successful at all. In fact, most of them end up in some sort of less than favorable situations when it all is over with.
True.
And I don't like to rehash any stories or nothing like that, but I just feel like doing it myself on your own is totally plausible now. And these success stories you read, it's just inspiring to see. It's like, wow, this person did really well doing it their own way, and proved to the world that there is in fact people who like whatever they're doing. When that if this was 20 years ago, they would have knocked on every major label door, and the major label would have said, no, there's no possibility that you could sell 10 million units of this. Right. We're not interested, blah, blah, blah. Well, look at this. They went out and sold 10 million, and they went out and sold 2 million. You don't have to sell a platinum every time to make a decent living if you're playing to your audience. This old guy in this club we used to play, it was a small place, and I always used to laugh at this, but he would always say, like, play to your crowd. Play to your crowd. And a lot of times it was a couple of friends and a couple of drunks, that was it. But that advice carries over into the other thing, is play to your crowd.
Right.
Find your crowd and play to them. And, if your crowd is okay with getting online and downloading your music, great. If your crowd wants it on cassette, better do it on cassette. If your crowd wants it on vinyl, do it on vinyl. Just, it's almost like everybody's got their own little band now, their own personal band. And so, whatever the mix of getting your music out there, whatever that mix is, it's different for everybody, and it's different for every genre as far as I can see.
So you were saying earlier that, we were talking about the different ways of getting the music out, and you were saying earlier that you're not going to get a 58-year-old guy to log onto his phone and download your stuff. So you still have the mindset that for your crowd, that you need to press a CD and put that in the hands of people. Is that...
Yes and no. I mean, last year I took a little poll, and it was like, how many new CDs or LPs have you bought in this last year? And for what it's worth, my Facebook people came back with over 100 comments, and overwhelmingly it was none.
Wow.
We've not bought anything new. We listen on YouTube, we listen on SoundCloud, we download it off iTunes, whatever it is, and so I was like, okay, so that's one thing to kind of realize and then understand that, like, all right, this is great, because before, when I was doing those first few albums, you'd record the stuff, you'd have it mixed, you'd have it mastered, you'd have it manufactured, and you're into it for a few $1,000s at that point.
A whole lot of time too.
Yeah, and a whole lot of time. And so you're like, at that level, it was never really about, I'm gonna make $1 million making music on my own. It was just like, I want to get this music out there, and I want to be able to have a business card, kinda. It's like, hey, this guy's got a CD, so that's why we should hire him to play at our
Sure.
whatever thing they're having, you know, and hey, they got something to talk about on this television show or whatever it is. And so, you know, like the first 4 things they tell you when, you know, you're trying to start or jumpstart a music career is release new music.
Right.
So after that poll I got, and where people said they didn't buy anything new, physical product,
Right.
I was like, hey, this is great, because I got tons of stuff I can put on my website for very low cost and nothing. And I've taken it a step further. Like, look, I just want to drive them to my website.
Okay.
My website. I do not want to have to point them anywhere else but to my website.
Okay.
Now, that's a slow build.
Yeah, especially since websites are kind of becoming obsolete. Everything's social media these days. So you got your Facebook group pages and stuff like that. It's like, but I hear that all the kids don't use emails these days. They use in-app messaging. They don't go to websites anymore. They go to their Facebook feed. Not even Facebook, Instagram. You know, and whatever the new, you know, swipe up, swipe down thing is, you know. So
yeah, I mean, and you know, so what I think is important is, like you're saying, is understanding who your core audience is. You know, what's their age group? What's their reference point? What's their desire? What's their need? You know, what are they going to think? You know, not everybody's got enough money to buy everything they like. I understand that. But, you know, just driving them to your own website and having more of a one-on-one relationship with way less people than just trying to, like, appeal to everybody. You know?
Yeah. Well, I can definitely appreciate the simplicity of it. I remember when the internet first came out, and you know, this person would have this website in Tulsa Bands or whatever, and you get all these profiles set up, and every now and then I'll somehow show up in the Google search, and it'll be on one of those things from 12, 15 years ago. It's like, I haven't kept up with this, and yet that data's still out there. It's like, oh, that's a little scary. Yeah. But so you're of the opinion you're not going to press CDs anymore. You're just
it'd be very limited.
Limited, okay.
And so, you know, like last year I released 3 EPs via my website, and then, you know, I put that one out on my birthday this year. And so what I think is I should probably try to have those first 2 EPs together on one CD, a limited number, and then you know, just have just EPs, singles, and then every so often print a CD that has, okay, there's 2 EPs and a couple bonus tracks and something else for them to, you know, to put in their hand. And, you know, vinyl is, of course, pretty awesome, pretty expensive, you know.
How long do you think it's going to last? So, yeah, it's a cool, trendy thing right now, but
I don't know, man.
Hipsters are digging it.
It's like everything else. I mean, I've had a record player my whole life, and it never went away for me. And it, you know, it's kind of frustrating. Some of those later '80s, early '90s bands, you know, finding it on vinyl is really hard.
Sure.
Original pressings, a lot of them, you know, have reissues, but you know, these last few years have not been so good, and you know, the money thing is a real deal. You know,
right?
Pressing vinyl's expensive, and so I'm trying to do it like, you know, on the website, and getting people come to the website.
Yeah,
visit the website, hurricanemason.rocks.
There you go. We'll have those in the show notes. See, now I've been a lot like you all these years. It's like, I'm going to put out a CD, press a CD. And I remember putting out a little 4-song sampler. Gosh, that was 2000 and some change. And that was just kind of a handout. And I think I still have about 400 copies of that original pressing. But the thing is that cost-wise, if you're going to put out a CD, you got to come up with 10 songs. It's got to be 45 minutes to make it worthwhile. So now you got all that time that you're investing, especially if you're DIYing, you know, recording and mixing and mastering 10 songs. Just writing 10 songs sometimes could be tedious, especially once you start having kids and things like that. So I never got the project going, and it just, you know, I'd get this far, and then suddenly I don't like the song anymore. I get frustrated. So here, I think it was about this time last year, a buddy of ours, Steve Manott, he finally did it. He sat down, he put out a CD, and I was real impressed with what he did. It was fun. It's like, okay, it's time to just do it. But I decided I wasn't going to press a CD. I was going to go digital only. And that was like a big revelation for me. It's like, okay, if I am not going to have to worry about the cost restraint of pressing a CD and the necessity to have 10 songs or 45 minutes worth, why not just release a single by single?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I'm doing now. And it's my goal to put out a single about once a month. Of course, this also gives me the opportunity to kind of play around with branding. You know, I had the Mad Dog Mark of the Blues Hounds, which is my Christmas time blues. I got Mark V, which is kind of my acoustic-y Americana sound, more of my folky stuff, and then Mark Allen Virtho, which is my classical guitar stuff. So links to all those will be in the show notes. So I'm having fun doing that, and it's really giving me the opportunity to, you know, I'll start working on a particular song, and if I get inspired and I knock another one out, well, I'll just put that one in the mix first.
Yeah.
So, and cost-wise, I mean, when you really start breaking it down, you're not spending $1,000 to press the CDs. You're not tripping over boxes of that stuff forever. You're not having to worry about postage and things like that. So it definitely made more sense. But you lose you're definitely playing for the online audience only at that point in time, because I don't gig and, you know, tell my friends, you know, send them a link or something like that. But it's definitely going to be the impulse buy of the online market. So, you know, that being said, you know, basically what I did is I bought a block of single releases from CD Baby. Usually it runs about $9.99 each. I paid for 10 of them right up front, so it's like $7 something at the time they had a special go. So those are just sitting out there. Whenever I'm ready to release a song, I just tap in one of those credits. But then there's the hidden fees that come, because if you need, I think it's a barcode that they charge you $5 for.
Yeah.
It's that or one of the other codes. And then you got to pay the $50 on top of that to get the copyright for it. And that's the downfall about doing the single only thing. If you're putting out a CD, you can send out your Form SR and copyright the entire thing in one shot for your $35. To do it single by single, it's $50 to do it online, $35 if you want to mail the stuff in. But that's for each song, so that does get a little expensive that way.
Yeah.
And then I figure I'm into about $75 per song. That's a lot of spins at half a penny a piece to get back. But you know, then this last time for the Christmas stuff that I put out, I decided I was going to go ahead and try the social media thing, and I paid to bump up both the Silent Night to boost that one, as well as the Christmas Time Blues, and I got 1,200 impressions, so I reached 1,200 people, and I think Christmas Time Blues had 59 clicks and 49 clicks on the Silent Night. As far as I can tell, none of them converted to an actual iTunes purchase, but I did see a couple of iTunes radio, their streaming service, a couple spins on that. So, you know, that's just lessons to be learned. So, pretty much each song was just shy of $100.
Yeah.
But
I don't really. I'm to the point now where I don't really have the answers.
Yeah.
It just seems like the longer this has gone on, I really don't understand what it takes to transfer. You know, just like, okay, I'm such a music fan. Well, I haven't seen you in a show in 5 years. You've liked on 2 things, you know, and so liking something on Facebook does not really mean that they're a fan enough of what we're doing to really turn loose some of that money. And
right. Does a like even mean that they listen to it?
Exactly.
No. It's just like, oh, he's got a song. I like your post. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
I'll go back and listen to it later, which you never do.
Yeah. And you know what I've been kind of experimenting on Facebook and other social media is like, how does this work? You know, I mean, you put up a post about, you know, your dog got hit, something like that, and you get 200 reactions of some sort, and you get, you know, 150 comments, and some of these people, most of them, in fact, you know, I don't know that I know them. I don't know that I've interacted with them. I don't know that they've interacted with me on a music level. Let's go see who these people are. And you go look at their page, and their page is, okay, dog rescue, lab this, veterinarian that. All their likes are, you know, pets of Rogers County. So what it is, looks like to me, is they're seeing certain posts from their friends that contain things that they like.
I see. Yeah, yeah.
And so they might like me as a person, they might like my music, but they don't see those posts.
Right.
And, you know, there's a very complicated bunch of math problems that go into all right, who sees what and when?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you have a job and you have a family and you have a life, you're not going to be on there all the time.
Right.
Okay. And so I always, I'm still struggling with this is like, I watch how the big guys do it, and they post every couple of hours and a lot of times,
Oh yeah,
and
Instagram all the time.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, here's a video of me playing, here's a video of me acting stupid, here's a picture of my last album, here's a picture of my upcoming album, here's a video of us, and it's just constantly.
Right. Well,
because
they don't have to go get ready to go to work either.
That is their work.
That is their job. So that's.
And it's kind of like that's my job.
Right.
I mean, Mark and I have chosen some different paths here
Hell
in
yeah.
life,
Yeah.
and it's a struggle either way.
True.
That's what I've figured out because out of all my friends, I'm still the one that's playing music, doing this all the time, and it's like the struggles are similar, but they're still it's still kind of the same thing. There's struggles no matter what.
Right.
And so I've had a real struggle figuring out, how to remain viable and how to remain where, you can actually reach your fans without these artificial frameworks of social whatever stopping me.
Right.
And then, I've tried the paid Facebook thing and all that too, and I got the same results. Yeah, you get 1,400 people that maybe see it, but does that mean there's going to be 4 more people at a gig? Does that going to mean there's going to be 4 downloads paid on your website? I mean, I'm as clueless as anybody else that sort of trying to figure it out. And there's these experts out there that you can enroll in their course or whatever. And I mean, I don't know the validity of all of them. I haven't really explored all of them. Nobody's got the time to do that.
Sure.
And I'm just to the point where I'm like, okay, I think I've got some of the right ideas. The idea you were talking about, just doing singles. Well, back in the early days of, music, recorded music, I mean, that's how it went.
Sure,
the
because
Stones did a single every 12 weeks.
Well, right, and that's also because of what the technology was too. The 78s. I mean, they can only hold 4.5 minutes, was it? So you release singles. You had A side, B side.
Yeah, and then like in the 60s, that's when the 50s and 60s started doing the 45s, and so
and then the LPs, and
yeah,
that's when music really went downhill fast.
I mean, the Rolling Stones, in their early career, I mean, they were a singles band,
Right?
So they would release, a single every 12 weeks, and then a B side, of course, would be with that, and then those first early albums, a lot of them were kind of rehashes of singles they'd already released. Collections, if you will.
Sure. Greatest hits.
So, that's kind of like another option is, hey, release all the singles on your website and on, whatever download service you want to put it on. Then press a CD once a year that's got all our singles on it. Here, you can buy it for whatever price, and it's only going to be available via my website, something like that. It's kind of got to be like a sprinkling of the old and a sprinkling of the new and a sprinkling of your own ingenuity.
Sure. So with that CD, would you include bonus content that would not be available as a teaser?
Absolutely.
Okay. Right.
Absolutely.
Because why would somebody buy a CD when they can just go and listen to it on YouTube?
It would be the person who is 58 years old, who isn't interested in downloading, who doesn't do that, who doesn't know how to do it, who enjoys listening to music in a little more freer way than being tethered to some device.
So you're trying to target 2 different sets of people that way. Well, easy for me to say, the digital people, the younger crowd that'll do the single every couple of weeks or so, and then still supply some an avenue for.
And then if they're really a fan, they might be inclined to buy the actual physical thing if they can get content that they're not privy to already by the the digital downloads. So you're kind of covering all your bases.
Okay. Well, it's definitely a cool model to look at. So I will definitely keep that in mind, and hope our listeners found it handy as well.
Well, and you know what I've figured out, Mark, is like now, a lot of these people, I really, their music's all great. It's all great on whatever level. It is great. Now, what I'm looking at is like, what are they doing? Like, how are they making this go? How are they doing this? What works for, one guy doesn't work for another band. What works for one artist doesn't work for another. And you got to figure out, well, how are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Is it working for them? And just take a little bit from everybody, I mean, I love all the greats for every reason everyone else does, but I don't want I don't want to just try to model yourself after one person. There's
Sure.
already that person. So you got to kind of take a little pinch of it all, and whatever the mix is, you throw it out there on the table in your own way. And I figured out, the other thing is like you got to have a lot of content.
Yeah,
you got
right.
to have content
Just sort of mention
continuously.
it, yeah. And that's why I kind of think doing the single route, because I can very feasibly with my life and career and family and all that, could put out every 6 weeks easily.
Absolutely.
And but to sit down and try to get 10 songs together, it was not going to happen. It's not going to happen now either. So this way it's, but I like your idea of, get the singles out there and then maybe put together a compilation with a little bonus content, something to put that tangible in people's hands.
Yeah. And I mean, think about like these catalog bands, they call them, somebody like it's been around for a long time, who's done a lot of recordings, I mean, just the United States alone. Okay. A band like, pick one, they've had all the studio records. They've had a greatest hits album.
Yeah, Bon Jovi, something like that.
Yeah, they've had some collection of this, some collection of that, and a lot of times, you never know what's going to help reach people. You never know the reason they're going to get hip to your music, and so if I used to feel really guilty about this, but I mean nobody else does. I mean, how many times is you're going to buy the same songs on a compilation or an album or a lives thing or whatever it is, and it's just, it becomes ingrained in that artist framework of, hey, this is the ticket sellers, and we're going to put out a live version of it. We're going to put out a version with a guest on it. We're going to put out an all new studio recorded version of it. We're going to put out I mean, there's just tons of options when you start thinking about what are my most,
Don't
what
forget
is
the remasters. You always have to have the remasters.
Right. What are the songs that people respond to? And you got to figure out how to get people to listen, because there's a lot of opportunities to listen to a lot of other things.
Yeah. All good points. All right. Well, I think that pretty much puts us, we're at about 30 minutes. So,
Awesome.
Do you have anything you want to wrap up with?
Well, just stay true to yourself, and this is not about joining the club and doing anything, like everybody else. You got to think outside the box. That's what being an artist is, and I've had to do it just to survive.
Very cool. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And, just keep making music. Do it your way. I mean, it's not going to hurt. We've got plenty of opportunities, plenty of very affordable ways of getting the stuff out there. So, make your music the way you want to do it. And if you want to try to write a top 40 hit, write a top 40 hit. If you just like the song that you wrote, record it and put it out there. What's the harm, right? $75, right? Not bad. All right. Well, thanks a lot for tuning in and to this episode of the Matt and Mark semi-hour of fun. We're just, I promise, we will come up with a name for this podcast at some point in time. So, but anyway, we appreciate your support of Band Advice. Be sure to check out the links in the show notes. Watch our videos on YouTube, and if you're so inclined, throw a couple bucks our way through Patreon. So, peace.